Well, here we are again, everyone. Another year, Wait, it hasn't been a year yet since the last Found Media video. In fact, it's only been a couple of months, which is pretty unexpected when you consider how many big and notable topics that video covered. But what I can say is that yes, here we are again, with another group of popular lost media topics that have been found since the last video was made. And in this one are specifically quite a few topics that I've talked about or mentioned on the channel before. I find talking about this kind of content particularly fun for the fact that it feels like we're closing the book on some of these searches and can document them for one last time. People have been discussing whether or not 2023 is going to beat 2022 for the title of Year of Found Media, but we still have a few months to go, so you have some time to decide for yourself. Last year, there were definitely some heavy hitters, but this year, I feel like the medium and smaller topics all grouped together can stand against 2022 proudly. With that said, let's get into what's been found since June, beginning with a topic that showed up very recently and completely ended a search that had been going on since 2019. If you've been in the lost media community for a while, then you might recall a search for an animated short from many years ago called Plugman. This was first brought up in the forums in 2019 by a user named James, and I covered the topic on my channel pretty soon after it went up. The short was described as having a simplistic style and featured a man who went about his daily life until he noticed he was plugged into a wall. He pulled out the plug and the animation ended with a black screen. The person who came forward with this topic claimed it had been aired on Cartoon Network as part of an animation special that only aired once, and had stuck with them for all these years, becoming very dedicated to finding it. With such a strange description, and the idea that it aired on Cartoon Network of all places, a lot of community members sort of felt like it was the spiritual successor to Clockman, and the search began. There was a very dedicated group of us searching for the source of this animation, until CBZ from YouTube mentioned that he believed the animation ran as part of Cartoon Network's Night of Independent Animation, the supposed special that James had mentioned in their original post. Shortly after, an ad was found promoting the entire special, along with a clip of the Plugman short seen in it. It was confirmed this is what we're looking for, it was real. And through a little more digging, it was discovered that the short was called The Wire and aired in 1996 as part of that special, with a creator named Aaron Augenblick attached to the short. He had his own production company called Augenblick Studios and was active enough to contact, so we did, and by the end of that month, a copy of the short was uploaded in full to YouTube. It was found. However, that's only half of the story for Plugman, because while we did get this specific short from the Night of Independent Animation special, and every other short was also available online, the actual full special where they all aired together had yet to be found. We only had a couple promos that advertised it, but nothing else, possibly because of the fact that the special only aired once, and since it was independent animation, it didn't contain anything notable from well-known properties, so less people would have had a reason to record it or take interest in it. And ever since Plugman had been found, I didn't hear about anyone having an interest or making any progress in finding the full special. However, this was until user Jericho did some research of his own and ended this year's old topic. Ever since I made my Toonheads video discussing some cancelled episodes that Cartoon Network made but never aired, the word of the series has been spreading and Jericho has been getting their hands on more and more content from it, along with JBVO. What happened was Augenblick Studios, the same company with the original Wire short, apparently had recorded the entire Toonheads special when it was aired on Cartoon Network, and digitized their copy and uploaded it online, complete with bumpers, commercials, and everything. This is as complete as you can get, and it came right from the TV. I figured this is exactly how it was going to be found, and it showed up as expected. I'm actually not sure why this wasn't brought up years ago during the discussion of the Wire short, but maybe no one asked Aaron about it at the time, or he didn't know where his copy was. It's crazy to think that over all these years, he had a whole recording, and all it took was asking him to upload it. Thanks to Jericho for doing that, and it concludes the entirety of the topic, and goes to show that you should always retrace your steps when it comes to finding lost content. Staying with the theme of Cartoon Network for this next topic, it's another one that had been lost for quite a while, and actually got a pretty huge response when I first posted the news to Twitter. But strangely, for how happy everyone was that this resurfaced, there didn't really seem to be any traction over the past couple years to actually get this found at all. If you've been following my videos lately, you might have heard me talk about this before. It's the original pilot for Uncle Gus, titled For the Love of Monkeys, a Cartoon Network show that never quite made it into a full series, despite the cult following the character has nowadays. Most people are familiar with the character of Uncle Gus through his appearance in the Cartoon Network Summer Resort game, where he was a playable character. But the story of Uncle Gus begins with his pilot, that was part of a huge promotion Cartoon Network ran in the summer of 2000, called The Big Pick. What happened during The Big Pick is every Friday night during Cartoon Fridays, a new pilot would play on TV, and the viewers would go online to vote which ones they wanted to become a full series. Most notably, Grim and Evil and Kids Next Door were chosen in this way, but there was a huge list of pilots that never got off the ground, including Captain Sturdy and Imp Inc., both of which had their own lost media searches prior to Uncle Gus. But the weird thing about Uncle Gus, and what made the topic so important to me, is the fact that this was the last pilot from The Big Pick that needed to be found. Every other pilot was already uploaded online. And what's even more strange about it is that it's not like we didn't know when it aired. The Lost Media Wiki article had an extensive section that documented exactly when the pilot was played, and mentioned it premiered on July 14th, and was even re-aired as part of a different show on December 14th. What I believed it would come down to was a similar situation to the Toonhead special, where a recording that someone probably has and doesn't know is lost would have to be found and uploaded. I actually did try to contact the creator, most famous for Big Nate on Nickelodeon nowadays, but he had no contact online at all. The most I was able to find was a publishing agent, but that didn't seem very helpful. And other than a few commercials promoting the pilot, we didn't even have any clips from it. No half recordings or anything like that. However, on August 1st, 2023, YouTube user Grover Kent uploaded the full pilot that was recorded from the original Big Pick event, complete with promos from Eustace, who was hosting the block that day. Even though it took 23 years to get this pilot up online, I'm glad to see it here and complete the Big Pick pilots in their entirety. Though if you're still interested in Uncle Gus Lost Media, he actually has a couple more pilots that you can search for. In 2001, Uncle Gus got another chance at being made into a full series, as a second pilot was created entitled Not So Fast, and aired on Cartoon Fridays on November 23, 2001. It will probably take another VHS recording to get this one found in full, though with this pilot, the full Latin-Spanish dub is currently available to watch on YouTube. We also have a 1-minute clip uploaded by Big Nate's dad, so it's not completely lost like the first one was. Additionally, there's also a third pilot that the Lost Media Wiki article mentions, though it's not confirmed to exist completely. Lincoln Pierce mentioned in an interview that he wrote 3 shorts for Cartoon Network under the Uncle Gus series. One of them is For the Love of Monkeys, the second one is Not So Fast, but we have no idea what this third one he mentioned is. It's actually not even clear if it was ever animated, he just mentioned that he wrote it. It's possible only a script exists, but again, maybe they were going to try for a third time to get the show off the ground in 2003, after the other 2 pilots. I would really like to get some more details about this, but with Lincoln being so hard to reach, I'm sure it won't be as easy as sending a tweet and asking about it. I'm sure at this point, I don't have to say how popular Nickelodeon Lost Media is, and how much I enjoy talking about it. So if you haven't been keeping up with Nick content, this find might come as a surprise to you. I've always considered the Super Y pilot, Bubble Guppies pilot, and Team Umizoomi pilot to be the trifecta of Nick Jr., for how often these 3 get brought up together. It was only in the last update video when the Super Y pilot was found, and now the Bubble Guppies pilot can be added to that list. This one took everyone by surprise, and I almost didn't believe it was true when I was informed about it being posted. I think that people had actually been DMing me about it during a live stream, but I didn't believe them because the timing seemed too coincidental, so I was going to look into it later, and once I did, I was not disappointed. The entire Bubble Guppies pilot was uploaded by a user named Doria, and the link to the pilot was posted in the comments section of the Lost Media Wiki article. We don't know who Doria is or how exactly they got the pilot, but there are rumors that suggest it was intentionally unearthed and posted for the fact that Bubble Guppies was ending its run on TV in the same week. There was also some speculation that this pilot might have been part of the Nickelodeon leaks that were happening at the time, but this is not confirmed, and it's been up without any issues for months, so it seems unlikely to have been obtained in this way. The pilot itself is pretty different from the main show, mostly in its animation style and character designs. Back when this first released, I made a post about it on Twitter, and everybody was making memes about how horrifying Mr. Rooper looked, as well as the fact that every character had a weird shine texture to them that was not in the final show. Before this, we only had a few screenshots that supposedly came from a different internal Nick video called Nick It Uber Hot Mix, which was an internal video that was accidentally made public several years ago. This hasn't resurfaced at all since then, and it was privated shortly after. I never got any other leads to finding a copy myself, though it's not as relevant to this search anymore. There are apparently still pieces of content from it though that are currently lost media, including content from the Team Umizoomi pilot, which is still missing in its entirety. Actually, as a little bonus, I can tell you guys there is a minor update with the Team Umizoomi pilot since I last talked about it in a kids show lost media video. A series of new background art and an image of the Firefly character was discovered to have been posted on the website of someone that worked on the show, which nobody had come across until now. It's possible that with this discovery, this person might have had a direct hand in creating the pilot and could have a copy in their possession. I think out of all three Trifecta pilots, Team Umizoomi is the one that has always been looked into the least. So maybe with a little more digging, we could actually end up finding it before the year is over, and say that all three were found within the span of this year. For this next segment, we'll do a 2-in-1 since both of these finds are on the smaller side, but both are important to me for different reasons. One search has been completely concluded with the new find, and the other is so close to being completed it makes me hopeful that someone will come across the last piece from it soon. Firstly, we'll talk about a series called A Very Aggressive Vegetable, which is quite an old and classic topic if you've been in the community for a while. I remember even back on the old wiki, there was discussion of the series and its lost segments, so it goes without saying that this search has been going for a long time. This series, as its name suggests, is about vegetables who are very aggressive towards the humans who don't want to eat them, and is made up of 6 shorts covering 6 different vegetables, all with a runtime of 30 seconds each. They were originally made for Nickelodeon Australia in 1997, but aired in the UK as well as the US in 1998. Many sources cite that the shorts were available to watch on nick.com at one point, but they couldn't be played in the video player, and now the pages are gone entirely. What's interesting about these shorts is that for how wide of an airing they had across 3 different countries, they must have not actually been airing for that long, leading to their rarity. Though the search has mostly been for one specific short, separate from the other 5 that have already been found, and that's Zucchini. For a long time, there was only one short clip of this animation shown in a promo for the Tunes from Planet Orange TV special, giving us an idea of how it looked, but that was it. There were no other visuals or recordings that anyone had come across, but considering all previous shorts had come from VHS recordings, it was likely that that's how this one was going to resurface too, and it did. In August 2023, user The Retro Room Games uploaded Zucchini along with the little outro from Planet Orange, ending the search for the series completely. Now all 6 animations have been archived, and there isn't any more that exist to our knowledge. Moving on to the second topic is another short piece of animation, and it involves the series of precursor shorts to the Nick Jr. show Ni Hao Kai Lan. This is called Downward Dogghouse, a 3-episode series that was aired as part of My World on Nick Jr. and focused on stories told from different points of view around the globe. Downward Dogghouse was definitely one of the more popular shows from this collection, and was even heavily promoted on the Nick Jr. website at the time. But as for the animations themselves, they weren't archived very well at all. I came across this topic recently and talked about it in a video where 2 of the 3 shorts were still missing, until recently when the second episode showed up on a VHS tape from 2005, uploaded by Vance's Media Treasures. It was titled Follow That Slipper, which leaves the final short, Where's Ho-Ho, as the last one that needs to be found, though there are still 2 UK dubbed episodes that haven't resurfaced yet either. Sometimes these smaller searches are fun to follow, and it's nice to see that even after all these years, there are still people out there with copies of these shorts on VHS tapes. I'm sure there are even more people out there that have these recordings and don't know they're lost. The next topic of this video is one that might be considered controversial for the fact that a lot of people don't consider the topic found. While I personally consider it to be found, I suppose the better term for it would be partially found. But the story behind it is so unbelievable that I'm happy we even got as much from it as we did. This topic isn't from the usual cartoon or kids show categories that I talk about quite often, but rather video games, and one that is very popular within the community. This is Conker's 12 Tales, a really well-known and iconic cancelled video game that has lived on through its lost media and the legacy of what it never became. I talked about this once in a Most Wanted Pieces of Lost Media video, and it made the list at number 5, only losing to Earthbound 64 and the Sonic 1 prototype when it came to other video games. The story of Conker's 12 Tales is pretty classic, essentially being the original version of what Bad Fur Day became. The game was first shown off at E3 1997 and was intended to be a sequel to Conker's Pocket Tales on the Game Boy Color, but it was criticized for being another cute animal platformer that didn't bring anything new to the table. From that point on, the game was reworked into Bad Fur Day, and most content from 12 Tales became entirely lost, gaining a reputation of being desired and rare since its original showing at E3. Over the years, many different forms of visuals have reappeared, from simple screenshots shared on long-defunct Nintendo 64 fan sites, to huge 30-minute gameplay videos that found their way onto YouTube. But in all of these cases, it didn't get us any closer to playing the game itself, or finding the ROM to it. And up until recently, I think a lot of people were under the impression it was a lost cause. I remember years ago, when I was looking more heavily into old Nintendo 64 content from various fan sites and E3 conventions, 12 Tales was one of those topics that lived in the ranks of Zelda 64 and Earthbound 64, with fans desperately wanting to experience the game with very little hope in sight that they ever would. And more than once in my travels through the fandom, the consensus I had heard from the majority of people is that all the computers and development tools that were used to make the game were long gone. There were no cartridges of it, and everything was discarded long ago. So you could imagine my surprise when I was informed on Twitter that a certain someone had posted what looked like a setup showing a Conker 12 Tales cartridge and the game running on a TV. This wasn't a troll or some unknown source of information. This was posted by Tim Stamper, who was a co-founder of Rare. It was real. The rumors of Conker's 12 Tales being long gone were no more, as this development cartridge, still intact, can run the game and shows that a working copy still exists. It was found. Well, to me anyway. Even though his post generated a lot of hype, it was actually met with a lot of criticism too, for the fact that some people felt like he was only showing off the game, and not dumping it defeated the whole purpose of telling people he had it to begin with. The game might as well have still been locked away. In addition to Conker, an early version of Zelda from Space World and Project Dream were all shown, but these games also remain undumped as of right now. However, I don't quite see the negativity in this, for the fact that we didn't even believe these games still existed in the first place, and to see working copies of them in the hands of someone that is going to take good care of them makes me happy. It's not like this is some unknown person that ended up with this stuff and is purposely showing it off for attention, or might ruin it on purpose. So you could make the argument that the game hasn't been found because it hasn't been dumped and is not playable, but I see it the other way around, and consider it found, for the fact that no one even knew if a copy still existed in the first place, and now we have one. Though there was a general concern that even if Tim doesn't release the ROMs, he should at least get them dumped for his own preservation, which maybe he has already and he just didn't tell anyone that he did. But I'm sure releasing any of these ROMs could bring up legal issues, which is probably why he hasn't done it yet, and I'm not sure if there's an expected time frame on when we could see them released. And as for the rest of the topics in this video, there's something to be said for the fact that they still exist, especially when you think about content like Batman Fights Dracula or London After Midnight that nobody might ever be able to experience again. Even with the other topics in this video, there's no guarantee that they would have resurfaced at all without the dedication from other people in the community. So in that way, the process of finding media is a side that we can all take together, and hopefully, even more cool lost media will show up before we close out the year. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to check out some of my other lost media videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Finn.